our current tower defense took at least 24 hours. I'll repeat that one more time, over 24 hours just on tower defense. And that calculation doesn't include tower and enemy art, just coding. So you must be wondering, what in God's name took us that long? Well, if you look at how far we've come, you'll see why we were willing to spend 24 hours on it. Our first tower defense version, well, it wasn't very good. However, I would still consider it a resounding success. Version 1 was a test to see if Wish Guardian was even feasible, and while the color scheme was an incoherent rainbow, and you could only buy a set amount of towers, it achieved its goal of being a simple test of concept. And as a programmer, I learned about object pools, basic game design principles, and singleton. I learned all of this from InScope Studios, whose tutorials I have linked in the description. Our next tower defense version allowed for a lot more strategy. I mean, the color scheme was still rainbow and the inventory didn't actually work, but now we use the A-star algorithm to determine the enemy pathing. This allows the users to change the default pathing with towers. This is the format that we still use today. So why did we change it? The other version worked fine, but by allowing the users to change the enemy pathing, it forces users to do more than just randomly place towers, and it prioritizes the strategy between rounds. By the time we had implemented the A-star algorithm, the basic system of the farming sim were complete. This meant that it was time to integrate tower defense into the bigger game. Combining the tower cost system with the farming sim inventory system was no small feat, but that was far from the hardest part. The hardest part was balancing energy costs, tower costs, and enemy strength. We want there to be a minimum amount of grinding to get through each level. Spending an in-game week just to get through one level would be overly difficult, but we also don't want players just to be able to breeze through. We balanced it out by making crops quick growing and having every 5th level be extra difficult. This way you can stock up for the 5th level while still making progress. Most crops grow in under 5 days, so you can get through one tower defense level every day or two, and then have supplies for the harder level. Our balancing is still far from complete, but with every playtest, we get a little closer. Now that the technical stuff was over, the next step was polishing. We added unwalkable tiles, multiple entrances, a different color scheme, wraith enemies, a tutorial, and mana. That's a lot, right? By adding unwalkable tiles, in this case water, different levels can have different layouts. Multiple entrances add a level of randomness and difficulty to the level. You don't know where the wraiths are going to come out next. Meanwhile, the UI changes give a level of immersiveness to the combat menu. The wraith enemies give more immersion too and really showcase the magic of Wish Guardian. Next up, the tutorials allow users to better understand what they are able to do and when they can do it. Finally, mana is accumulated by defeating wraiths and can be used to gain health, speed up towers, and increase tower damage. This gives the user more actions to do during the tower defense rounds. With all these changes, I'm sure you can see why it took us over 24 hours to get to this point. Of course, the tower defense portion is far from complete. We're going to need a lot more than just 24 hours. Right now, we have 3 different towers and 3 basic enemy types. By the end of the summer, we plan to have 18 towers and have redesigned the current enemy types. The biggest change we plan to make over the summer is to add a tower that can permanently domesticate wraiths. This takes them from combat to help out on the farm. The domesticated wraiths will be removed from combat and then can be picked up during the farming sim portion of the game. After the summer, we plan to have more options to spend mana and continue development of enemies and towers. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next week where we'll talk about resources and systems for the farming sim portion.